Welcome to my audience. This is the Thursday Executive Brief. 5 minutes, 1 leadership challenge, 3 executive moves, 1 action for the week. No theory, no fluff, just execution. So let's get to it. Hello to my audience. Welcome back on the Executive 5. Today we talk about strategy dies where proof is missing. Something that I try to assist my clients with, a receipt culture. A strategy is easy to admire when it still lives in a deck. The language is clean, the ambition sounds intelligent, the priorities feel sharp. Everyone leaves the room feeling like something important just happened. Then 3 months go by, the same slides are still being used, the same phrases are still being repeated, the same confidence is still being performed. But when you look for evidence that the strategy is changing the business, there's very little to see. That is where strategy starts to die. Not in the planning session, not in the offsite, not in the announcement. It dies in the gap between what was declared and what can actually be shown. So what's the challenge here? This is one of the most common executive failures, and it hides in plain sight. Leaders confuse articulation with traction. They mistake alignment language for movement. They assume that once the strategy has been communicated, the organization will somehow convert intention into action through sheer exposure. It does not work like that. A strategy without visible proof becomes corporate folklore. People keep referring to it, but fewer and fewer people believe it is real. Teams learn very quickly whether a strategy is changing decisions, changing priorities, changing resource allocation, changing behavior, or whether it is just another elegant story from the top. That is the damage. Once the business senses that strategy has no receipts, cynicism starts rising. Meetings sound right, but the work underneath them stays the same. Leaders start asking for trust while giving no evidence, and the organization becomes fluent in strategic language while remaining stubbornly operational in reality. That is not execution weakness, that is leadership weakness. Let me give you 3 moves how you can counter that, remove it, and move forward. Number 1, define the proof before you launch the plan. Most strategies fail 1 move earlier than leaders think. They fail when nobody defines what proof will look like before the rollout begins. If this priority is real, what will be visibly different in 30 days? What will be different in 90? What will stop? What will start? What metrics, decisions, behaviors, or customer shifts will tell us this is alive? That is the question. Not do people understand the strategy? Not do they like it? Proof. Without that, leaders end up measuring effort instead of traction. They celebrate workshops, updates, and activity while the business stays fundamentally untouched. If you cannot define what success looks like in visible terms, then you are not launching a strategy, you are launching a hope. Move number 2, review evidence, not energy. A lot of executive reviews are full of motion and empty of proof. People report effort, they report commitment, they report how hard the team is working, they report how much is underway, and everyone leaves the meeting feeling reassured while nothing has actually been tested against reality. Energy is not evidence. Senior leaders need to ask harder questions. What changed? What improved? What moved? What is now true that was not true 6 weeks ago? Where can we see the strategy showing up in a result, a behavior, a customer experience, a decision pattern? Those questions change the room. The moment leaders start reviewing evidence instead of effort, strategy either gains traction or gets exposed. And both are useful. Move number 3, make the gaps visible while they are still small. Weak leaders hide the gap between intention and reality for too long. They protect the story, they soften the drift, they wait for the turnaround, they keep saying it is early. Strong leaders do the opposite. They surface the gap while it is still uncomfortable but fixable. They say this part is moving and this part is not. They name where the strategy is still only rhetoric. They force visibility early. That matters. A strategy rarely collapses in one dramatic moment. It usually erodes through weeks of unchallenged slippage. Small misses become normal. Delayed proof becomes tolerated, and slowly the organization learns that saying the right thing carries more value than delivering the thing. Once the lesson takes hold, strategy becomes theater. So here's my weekly challenge for you. Take 1 strategic priority this week and ask your team 1 question. What hard evidence do we have that this is changing the business right now? Not what is in motion, not what is planned, not what is being discussed, what can actually be shown. If the answer is vague, the strategy is weaker than it sounds. And that's where you start. I hope that you have a fantastic week. That was the Executive 5, and I hope to see you next week, Thursday. And that was it for today. Remember, precision beats intensity every time. Execute the move, run the challenge. And I'll see you next Thursday for the next Executive Brief.